Hey everyone, so today I wanted to talk to you guys about how to deal with fear. And as a person who has dealt with anxiety and depression, OCD and things like that have stopped me from pursuing things or being anxious about pursuing things, I kind of know how it feels to deal with fear. And I think the easiest place to start is talking about fear in the context of two things. So there's survival, and those are having fear over, you're in fight or flight mode because you have a perceivable danger. And I forgot my tripod, so I'm going to try to hold my hand still. Can't promise that I will though. And so you have real fear, which is, your life is threatened and you have an issue going on where your body's in fight or flight mode and you're having to deal with an outlying external circumstance. So you're on the highway and a car comes into your lane and you have to swerve to miss it. Perceivable real danger. Banks. Sorry guys, mom life. Banks is just doing some screaming act. And then you have not real fear. So what is not real fear? Not real fear is psychological fear. This is the fear that we create inside of our minds in response to something that we're thinking about, we're wondering about, we're dreaming about, we're planning for. And fear that is psychological is something that we completely make up. But the interesting thing about our brains is, which you should know by now after watching my videos, that the thoughts that we think are real to our mind. So if you're thinking about something, your brain is going to try and interact with that thought as if it is real. That's why your body will release hormones and stress responses and all these things just simply based on your thoughts. That's why your thought life is so very important. So if you are thinking certain thoughts, your brain is going to try to match those thoughts by chemically producing outcomes to make that thought a reality. So when you're dealing with a very anxious, let's say for example, the onset of a panic attack, what's going on is your thought life is really dictating how your body is responding. So your thought life at that moment is thinking about something that is dangerous to you in your mind, and you are having to navigate all those thoughts and all that process, and your body is getting into fight or flight mode even though there's not a true danger in your midst. It's responding with cortisol and adrenaline and blood pressure rising and heart rate increasing and all those natural physical responses when you truly are in a dangerous situation. Fear is not a bad thing. Fear keeps us alive. Fear keeps us aware and conscious, but fear can be very debilitating when we are allowing fear in our mind, not real fear, to dictate our livelihood and how we're perceiving our day and perceiving our environment. And so it's really important that if you're someone who struggles with anxiety, panic attacks, things like that, to figure out what your trigger points are, what things are triggering you to have those thoughts that are making you uncomfortable. And it's also important to have easy disengagement tools at your hands, at your fingertips, things that you can immediately do that are going to disengage that locking mechanism your brain kind of gets into when it's in a fearful situation. So for me, if I start getting very anxious about things, I immediately turn on worship music. Worship music is very calming to me, and I just have a playlist of worship music that I love, and it's always pointing me back to Jesus and has scriptural base in it, so it reminds me of the truth and the real truths of my life and who I am and what's going on, and so it helps to just ground me and disengage that perpetual thought process of this is bad, this is not going well, this is not going to be good, this can't happen, this isn't good for me, all these things that are going on in our mind when we are creating our fear. Another thing about fear is it can stem from change. So fear of change is a big one because we're having fear of the unknown, and that has a lot to do with controlling and having control over certain aspects of our life, which we all know we don't have control over our lives. So having that fear of change is one we need to work on, because fear of change is inevitable. Our lives are forever changing. Our circumstances are forever changing. Why? Because we are not in control of it. As a believer in Christ, I know God is in control of everything. So that for me is an engaging thought. I literally just lift it up and say, God, this is in your hands. God, this is in your hands. God, this is in your hands. Perpetuate things that I know are true, that I'm not in control, but God is in control of my life and of this circumstance and of the outcome. And when I'm feeling very anxious, I immediately go into prayer. I even pray, just, God, get rid of this anxiousness, get rid of this feeling. I don't want to feel this way. And so as a believer in God, that is one tool that I use specifically when I'm dealing with anxiety or OCD or depression or any of that. And so fear of change is one you have to work on, because changing is just part of life. And so when you are dealing with fear in that respect, you have to understand what's going on in your thinking. Are you fearful of a change? Are you really fearful of a circumstance or having to put the energy into something? A big trigger for us is in our minds do not want to deplete energy, and so you're constantly in conservation mode. So you have to interact with your thoughts and know, my brain is telling me this because it doesn't want to use the energy to make it a different way. So that's very important when you're dealing with change or fear of change, and really engaging reality and not just your thought life. So think about your thoughts and know what you're thinking, and that helps you combat any fear or the onset of fear / panic attacks or anxiousness or any of those, mental extreme situations that some of us deal with on a daily basis. So I hope this helps. Bye for now.